Yeah, I want to first talk about how to check your cars. We always do that because we want you to know that your safety is more important than every other thing to us, especially from the studio. All right, so taking care of yourself and ensuring that you check your car in the morning is very, very important. All right, so when you wake up in the morning, how do you take care of your car? How do you look out for your car? Or are you just one of those persons that wake up and feel, oh, it's another day, I've got a car, I'm just going to head up to the office? So how do you do that? Do you just grab your car key and just go, or do you check your car? I know there are some persons who doesn't even know that there are some parts inside the car where you have to add water. Some persons don't know, probably because they don't do that by themselves. Maybe they have people who do that for them, so they really don't know. So there is need for you to know all of that. So today we're going to add a little bit of spice to today's discussion on the top gear segment right here on the Sunnyside Show. All right, so that is because we want you to also know those things you need to do to slow down your fuel economy and the fuel usage too. All right, so before we get to that, let me first of all talk to you about those things you need to do when you wake up in the morning. Anyways, I'm not an expert, I'm not a mechanic, but I'm just going to share the little knowledge I know about it, and then you too from the other side can just add up if you want. If you know something you feel you should bring to the limelight for other people to see or hear what you have to say, you can just call up. All right, but before we get to that, where I can open the phone lines for you to also call and see if you can add your own thoughts on how people can take care of their car and how they can manage their fuel consumption at this point. Before I get to that, all right, let me tell you what I have to say. Number one, when you wake up in the morning, the first and foremost thing you need to do is to open the bonnet and then check your car. Check the front car where you put water, check the radiator, check where you put the brake oil, check the normal, the engine oil, check the engine oil too, because it has a gauge. There's this pipe that is inside the main engine. It has a gauge, it has this line where you get to know where the fuel, the engine oil have to get before you know that, okay, it has gotten to its gauge. So you're not supposed to put it above that place. You're not supposed to, the oil is not supposed to be above that place, and it's not supposed to be too beneath that place. All right, and then also for you to check if the oil is black, if the oil is still clean, and all of that, so that you know the next thing to do, probably to do a service to the car or something. All right, so after checking the car, you check if the water is short, you top up the water, you check the brake oil, which is very important, because without that brake oil, your selections might not be too okay. And then also the, what is it called, this gearbox oil. There's another one that is called gearbox. It has the ATF oil. The ATF oil, you have to check if it's also low, so that you can top it up to ensure that your car selection and all of that works seamlessly. All right, okay, so before we go further, let me bring you to some of the things you can do, all right, to see that you minimize fuel consumption, especially in this present economy that we are facing. Especially for the fact that even the fuel is also it has become like blood. It's also so expensive. So how are you coping with the whole economy? How are you managing your car in order to reduce your fuel consumption, especially if you have a car that there are some cars that have this high fuel consumption. All right, so let's talk a little bit about it says obeying the speed limits, accelerating and braking gently and gradually, and reading the road ahead can improve the fuel economy of your vehicle to about 15% to 30% at highway speed and 10% to 40% in stop and go traffic. Do you understand? Now I'm talking about those things you can do, to really reduce your fuel consumption, to economize your fuel. All right, so obeying the speed limits, accelerating and braking gently and gradually, and reading the road ahead can improve the fuel economy of your vehicle by 15% to 30% at highway speeds, and also at 10% and 40%, for 10 to 40% in stop and go traffic. So driving more sensibly is also much safer for you and others. Do you understand? So while you're trying to do all of that, then let me also bring some to your notice, which is some of the things I want to talk about here is the need for you to constantly do servicing. Yeah, there is need for you to always do servicing, especially the normal routine services. So for some persons, you do this normal routine car service. Some is 3 months, some is 1 month, some can even stay up to 4 months, depending on the kind of car and depending on how frequent you use the car. Yes, I know some persons will be saying that I just serviced the car last month, and it doesn't matter. You can service the car the same month and you use this car on a long journey. You have stressed the oil, you have stressed the pipe and the plugs and all of that put together. So there is need for you to always check back and see if the car is in good health to go about. So number one thing that you can do, all right, to keep this car in shape and to make sure that you do serious economy in your fuel consumption is to make sure that you do this constant consulting, constant routine for service routine. I beg your pardon. You do this constant service routine check on your car. Depending on how many kilometers you drive this car, there is need for you to do these routine services. All right, so if you are listening to me this evening and you have something to add up to what I am talking about, probably you might be an automobile engineer or you are a mechanical engineer, whoever you are, and you have something that you can say and add to what I'm talking about this evening that can save someone who doesn't have little or no idea about how to maintain cars, especially on how to economize fuel in the car. All right, so you can call me and let's hear your thoughts on it. So the number for you to call and be part of the Top Gear segment is 09073530044 or 09087668888. You can also send me a WhatsApp message to 0909705450. All right, so moving to the next thing that might necessarily make your car to consume more fuel than necessary, all right, is the air cleaner elements. Talking about the air cleaner element, I'm talking about the filter. Now the filter differs from cars to cars. It depends on your kind of car. All right, so now when you are using the filter that is meant for the other car, for another species of car in your own car, it might also stress your car and it will make your fuel consumption to be on the high side because apparently you have fixed something that is not supposed to be in this particular car. So there is need for you that when you go to do servicing, for some persons they usually go with the number of the car engine to buy the car filter. Yeah, so some persons go with the car serial number, the engine serial number, to buy the air cleaner element, which is popularly known and called the net or the filter. All right, so some persons have cars. It could be the same car, it could be the same species of car, like it could be the same Toyota car, but because it's a different brand, it's a different year, and you know how these cars are, right? Every year has its own model, and that model goes with everything that is inside the car. So now when you're driving a car that is a different model from the model of the filter they fix for you, it stresses your car, beg your pardon, it stresses your car, thereby making the car to consume more fuel, because apparently even you as a human being, all right, when you are wearing a shoe that is not your size, it's really hot, because you have to be struggling to see how you can fit into those shoes and see how you can walk properly without having issues of having blisters on your feet, or maybe your feet hurting and all of that. So that is how it is also with cars. So before you get an air cleaner element, which is the filter, you have to ensure that is the same one for your car. You have to ensure that is the same model as the one your car is supposed to use. That way you will help to minimize the fuel consumption of your car, and then you just deal with the whole thing. All right. So, and also, if that net, if the filter is cluttered with dirt, if it's covered with dirt, that one being there is to protect dirt from getting to your engine. All right. So now when those dirts accumulate in that what is it called now, in that net, in that filter, and there is no ventilation to go in, all right, that can also cause your car to consume high fuel. All right. So there is need for you to constantly check that filter. Also ensure that any dirt that is on it, if you go to the mechanics, them that take care of those cars, they know what to do, and they know how to wash it, they know how to dust it and fix it back for you. That is if you don't want to fix a new one. If it's not time for your normal routine service, all right, you could just give them, they have a way of cleaning it and fixing it back for you. That way your car can moderate the fuel consumption, especially in this recent fuel economy. All right. So there is need for you to put all of that in place. All right. So now moving ahead is the plug. The plugs. That is the mass airflow sensor, the plug. That plug also serves as the starter for some cars. All right. Some persons, from starting of the car, they will know if the plug is not okay, if the plugs are burnt, or the plugs are rusted and needs to change, or the plugs are losing, and all of that. All right. So there is need for you to get the actual plug for your car. There are some cars that use 6 plugs. There are some cars that use 4 plugs. All right. So, and also when you want to buy those plugs, you need to look out for the exact plug that works with your car, the exact size that works with your car, because each of those cars plugs have their sizes. So if it's the medium size, you have to buy exactly the medium size, so that you don't fix the plug that is not required to be in that car, thereby making your car to consume fuel more than it should. All right. So there is need for you, when you want to go buy those plugs, you should look out for your same size of plug that will fit in those holes and balance, so that it will not create a vacuum or create space for the fuel for the engine rather to overwork itself, because it has to meet up with whatever it is you have fed the car at that point. All right. So there is need for you to ensure that you buy the exact plugs that works for your car, and also check constantly to ensure that if there is a rusted plug, you have it changed. If there is any one that is burnt, you have it changed. And also to make sure that you look what they are doing in your car, because sometimes when you go to the mechanic and you hand over this car to these people who take care of cars, all right, they might just want to be in hurry because you are disturbing them, and they might, or probably you are in hurry too, you want to go and all of that. So they might not want to be patient enough to look for the exact thing that fits your car, but they will just fix anyone that is available to make sure that you get your car and go to where you're going. But there is no need to be in hurry when it comes to servicing a car that takes a life in and out. All right. So there is always need for you to settle down and see how they can do the right thing that needs to be done in your car for you. All right. So we're still talking about how to save fuel, how to save fuel and unnecessary consumption of fuel in your car, especially in this contemporary fuel economic that is currently going on. And then another thing is, when you check the distance that you've driven this car, there is need for you to always check and service your car. When you drive the car for a long distance, you don't have to wait until that 4 months elapse, until the 3 months of your normal routine service. servicing of the car elapse before you take the car for proper checkup. I mean, for God's sake. Car also is like a human being. So you need to check the car. You need to do whatever it is. You also take the car to the hospital, right? Okay, so keep it locked down. It's Top Gear on midday. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. It's Top Gear on Sunnyside Show right here from the studios of Eagles 102.3. Your radio experience you can count on. I will be right back. Let me go on a quick music break, and when I come back, we will wrap up on the Top Gear segments. So keep it locked down. My name is Holy Ray. I'm sticking around. All right, welcome back. It's still the Sunnyside Show, and of course, on this segment, we're talking about fuel economic in the current economy in Nigeria. All right, and this is Top Gear. Of course, my name is Holy Ray. All right, so I haven't told you some of the few things to do and put in place to ensure that your fuel consumption is reduced to the minimal part of it. All right, so I'll just move straight to some of the ways you can also save fuel. All right, so number one is drive the vehicle at a constant and moderate speed. All right, so when you want to really economize fuel, you don't have to accelerate to the highest drive. All right, so you could just drive the vehicle at a constant and moderate speed, so that way you can help to economize your fuel. Also, switch off the engine at traffic lights or at places where you have to wait. All right, so you can also help to economize your fuel by switching off the car when you're in a place or a traffic where you have to wait for more than probably hours. There is no need leaving the car on for that long, for 30 minutes and above, and you don't expect fuel not to be consumed. All right, so if you are in a place that is going to take you longer than expected, you have to switch off the car. That way you can help to economize your fuel. All right, then also correct tire pressure. Correct tire pressure also has to be maintained. You have to always check the tires and make sure that is at the normal pressure that is supposed to be. There are some cars that the highest of some cars is 40 and above. For some cars 40, some cars 35, some cars like that. So you have to always check which of the pressure goes with your own car, so that you put it at that same level. That way you can help to economize your car. Generally, economizing fuel consumption in the car is just doing the needful and putting those necessary things in place, so that the car does not struggle, so that the engine does not struggle to want to meet up. But if everything that happens inside that car is for the car, definitely I tell you, the car will accelerate so smooth and move well, and the fuel consumption will just be normal, like minimal. It won't be that high. Okay, and then also regular vehicle maintenance, of course I've said that severally here, has to be maintained. Regular vehicle maintenance have to be maintained for you to get that result, that you really want. There are some people who are driving cars and you'll be like, how far my own car full tank today, you don't finish it. You have to check the way you use the car, check the things you do in the car, check the plugs, all those things that they use in your car. That way you will know. By the time you now settle down and put all of that in place, you will see that the car will be giving you that result that you need, especially in the aspects of fuel consumption. All right, so there are some tricks you have to really adopt for you to bring down that fuel consumption, to really bring down that fuel consumption. And some of those tips are the fact that you have to avoid carrying unnecessary weights. Yes, when the car is carrying heavy weights, it also consumes fuel. it also consumes fuel, because at that point the car is carrying overweight and is struggling to meet up with the speed, and you, in the other hand, you are accelerating without even thinking twice. All right, so that way the car will definitely consume fuel. So you have to avoid carrying of unnecessary weights. Anything we know today important, you understand, you have to make do with that. And then also remove roof or bicycle racks not in use. Anything that is not in use, you take that away so that it will not add to the car whatever. And then use air conditioning sparingly. They use air condition, you know, one spare even 1 minute every minute. Once you're inside the car, all right, your AC is on 247. That can also, you know, help in that will also make the car to consume fuel. So if you use the AC once in a while, you know, use the next day. If you know, use if you use when it hurts, later you don't use it again. That way you will also help in bringing down the fuel consumption. All right, so another trick is use a fuel consumption display, so you can bring your fuel consumption down. Now you know that those things that used to display unnecessary, especially that fuel consumption display, also helps in making sure that it also add to the fuel consumption. So you make sure that you do all of that, and then try to track your fuel consumption. Try to track that. Use those tricks so that you see how you can get your fuel consumption down. Track your fuel consumption, check all those things put together, you will see that the car will be in good use. So still talking about fuel economy, all right, in the current economy. So if you are just joining, this is Top Gear on the Sunnyside Show, and on this segment we are talking about fuel economy, all right, how to bring down your fuel consumption. And then we talked about doing the regular routine service. We talked about regular routine service, that is servicing your car when the time is due for the service. We talked about that. And then we talked about your air cleaner elements like the plugs, the filter, and all of that. Especially the filter is the number one air cleaner element. So we talked about you checking this air cleaner element, which is the filter, making sure that the right one for your car is what they fix in the car, making sure that the right position, it is well positioned. Also stuff like coolant also help to make sure that your car and fuel consumption also are very low. All right, so we talked about the air cleaner elements, you checking and making sure that they are using the right cleaner elements in your car, so that they don't carry the elements that is meant for another car to fix in your car, thereby stressing your car to move the engine to work and making the fuel consumption to be on the high side. So when you make sure that they fix the right cleaner element in your car, which is the net, the gasket, or in some cars it is called the filter. So if you make sure that they fix the right one, it will help you very much for the fuel consumption. All right, then we talked about the plugs. So making sure that the right plug for your car is what it is used, so that they don't fix another plug for your car. Probably there are some cars that use 6 plugs, some cars use 4 plug. I said that earlier. Make sure that the 6 plugs are filled. If it's 4 spaces that you have for the 4 plugs, make sure that the 4 plugs are in order, so that they don't just tell you that 2 plug can go. Now the car feel on. If you work for 2 plug, you then go and fix 2 plug. If you work with 3 plug, you go and fix 3 plugs instead of the 4 complete plugs of the car. That way definitely the car is going to consume fuel. All right, so for you to bring down the fuel consumption of this car, you have to ensure that the right plugs is what they fix for you, and the right filter is what your car is using. Also, you check to ensure that if this filter is dirty, you have to make sure that you take it to the mechanic, let them check, all right, and clean the net, let them clean the filter. Let them clean the filter, dust out all those things that and most times when they bring out that filter, if you see it, you will know, and you will know that this filter is really, really saving your car engine, because you will see the dirt that will be hanging on it. So it's good that you take it for cleaning. Let them clean it. That way you will help the fuel consumption of your car. And the right plugs also should be the plugs you are using, and not the plug of another car. Also ensure that if your car is using 6 plugs, so may they put all the 6 plugs and the right plugs, not just anyhow plugs. All right. And also I told you that you should try and check if the plugs are rusted, or it's no longer fitting in the hole, or is burnt. You make sure that that is changed. It will also help your fuel consumption. That is what we do, because sometimes when that filter is filled with high dirt, all right, it also affects your fuel consumption in the car. And then we also talked about using the right oil. How did I forget this one? This is the main almighty thing that carries the car, the engine oil. All right, so using the right engine oil is very, very essential in reducing your fuel consumption in your car. All right, so there are some persons that when you go to service your car, there are some persons that don't even have a brand that their car uses. So you just use any good oil you see. If you go to the detail, so now this A oil now be the best, you use it. If now the B oil now be the best, you use it. No. You should have your own preferred oil. Let me use that word. You should have your own car preferred oil, the oil you know that you use, and your engine gives you that sound. Some engines come with the serial number. You can also use that number to know the type of oil you should be using for your car. Now the type of oil, they differ. I can't remember, but I know it has this write-up on the gallons, on the containers where they put those oil. It has some write-up on it, so you will know from that write-up that it is written on that stuff where you buy the oil. You will know if your car is using this oil or your car is not using this oil. So using the right oil, engine oil in your car, can help and go a long way in saving your car from high fuel consumption. All right, so you have to ensure that you know the right oil your car needs for to reduce your fuel consumption, because when you now use the oil that is not acceptable for that car, definitely it will make the engine to struggle. Some persons will now realize that when they use oil, a particular oil for a period of time, and then when you go for servicing, sometimes they will tell you, oh, they don't see this one, they don't see this one. When you change oil, you will notice that the engine sound will also change. Then over time, when you continue using that oil, the engine sound will now adapt to the new oil that you've introduced the engine to. But that is not so good for your car, because it begins to weaken the engine's life. So there is need for you to make sure that you are using the right oil for your car. That way you can get good results. All right, so one of those things that you need to do, I feel like the one that is glaring to our face, is that one that you have to maintain your speed limit. Maintain your speed limit. And when you are in a place where you have to stop for more than 30 minutes, you have to off the car to save fuel consumption. And above all, right, before I wrap up this segment, is the fact that you don't have to be driving around to unnecessary places. I mean, you mustn't be everywhere. Okay, so when you know that that place you want to go does not really, it's not important, there is no need for you wasting your fuel and driving around and all of that. So putting together all of those things that you need to do to ensure that you bring down the fuel consumption of your car, from the engine oil, from using the right engine oil for your car, from using the right air cleaner elements like the the nets and all of that for your car, like for checking your car, checking the brakes, checking the brake oil, checking the ATF oil. Make sure that they are all gauged so that the car can move fluently. All right, the car can move so that you can accelerate without stress. I don't know the right English to use at that point anymore. And then also checking and make sure that you service your car, the routine for the service of the car. If it's 3 months, if it's 2 months, if it's 4 months, whatever months you fix to make sure that you check your car, that is what you should do. And also when you use the car for a long distance travel, right, you need to take the car for checkup service. Car to be like human being, you have to service the car. All right, so having said all of this, I believe you have learned something. Just ensure that this time is fuel is like blood right now. I mean, to get fuel, no be small matter. So you cannot just be doing full tank every day, and before you know, the full tank is finished. So make sure that your mechanic check your car to know why your fuel consumption is high, and of course on your own also adhere to these few points that we have told you from the studio of Eagles this evening. It will sure help you to keep your fuel consumption intact. All right, and make sure that you do the needful for your car. All right, so keep it locked down. It's Eagles 102.3. We've got the radio experience you can count on, and I'll go on a quick music break. Of course, I'm wrapping up the segment, and up next is the traffic rush. All right, so Benedicta Henshaw is coming right away to take us on the